Welcome, Buckeye Nation, to another episode of the Scarlet and Great Empire. Ohio State football with Scarlet and Great here, right on here on YouTube. Here with my good buddy, Shane O'Mac, Shane Larson. I don't know if you watch wrestling at all.
I like it.
Who didn't love Shane O'Mac? Shane, buddy, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Hey, it's sunny here in Idaho. We're sitting at I think 68 degrees, Cory. So we're trying to
That's
mimic the
nice.
Florida weather, brother.
Nah, it's hot here now. It's just ridiculous here now.
Well, it's been freezing. It literally snowed and rained all last week, and then now it's sunny. We're getting into the springtime, so I'm excited. We just went for a walk right before we started recording, and I could actually enjoy myself.
Yeah.
It's time to get back in shape though for the summer, man.
I'm right there with you. I got the gym later, actually, after a long day at work. No excuses, man. No excuses. Yeah, up and down a 24-foot ladder all day today. Going to do legs later, so this should be fun.
Dedication, man. That's what it takes in the off season, right?
More important than motivation, absolutely. Anyways, my bro, good to be back with you. We haven't done an episode in a while because, frankly, Johnny, Shane, and I all have lives. They're very busy people, and there hadn't been a lot going on, quite frankly. But today we're here to talk about helmets, Harry, and Holtmann. Alliteration for the win. We're going to start off with the helmets because we were talking before the show. Like, what do you want to discuss? And Shane's bringing. I got to talk about these helmets. Shane's the culture guy, the style guy. We got to go with him on the helmets right now. What's up with the helmets,
man? So shout out to Mr. Ohio on Instagram, right? I was
closet Michigan fan.
Okay, hopefully he sees this. So yeah, I like to follow his stuff, and he posts the picture of CJ's helmet, and I'm getting some mixed reviews on this. I immediately looked at that and I'm like, dude, I like it. It looks like a transformer. Let's get it. It looks like a transformer. And I'm a big proponent of look good, feel good, play good. I've always been that way. Wear the arm sleeves, wear the bands, whatever you got to do, get a visor. And I think CJ's got a little swag to him. I think that's part of his game is he's got a little swag to him. But have you had a chance to look at that helmet, Cory?
Yeah.
They've shown a couple other guys with them too, similar helmets. What are your thoughts on them? Because I thought they looked pretty dope, but I'm seeing all these comments on here that there's quite a few people who are not a fan.
I actually think it looks okay. I just remember when they started doing these style of helmets coming out. I remember Peyton Manning wearing one that was completely different than what we were used to growing up. I'm almost 40. So it's like I grew up with the old, some guys wearing just a single bar. Is so freaking
okay, Grandpa. Come on,
yeah,
now.
No kidding. And it's like you see these today, and you're like, geez, these look like they could start a car. It's kind of nuts what they like. It's like the new iPhone of the helmet, and I like it. I'm fine with it if the player's comfortable with it. I mean this sincerely. This is not cliche. If it's safer for his head, so he's not getting concussions easily, is a good thing. If it's comfortable, that's a good thing. I'm more of a pragmatic guy. If it works, awesome. Then wear it. I don't really care about. It's like I'm a house painter. When people ask me about what colors they should use, I literally don't care. You paint your house whatever you want. I'll put it up there and then pay me. So when it comes to helmets, I'm like, is he throwing touchdown passes with it? That's really it for me.
So Cory's the guy that shows up at the gym, right? Plays pickup basketball, and he's got his, and one shorts on from
from Walmart, absolutely.
Yeah, 1998 style, same.
And my shoes from Walmart too, because I'll still cross you over with those clothes on. I don't
little
care.
Higher white socks, and you don't even question it. You're like, this guy's
talking about fundamentals.
Yeah, dude's got bounce passes from the chest and everything. So that's who Cory is, and I love it. I just wanted to make a point there because it came out in the news this week. There's the fun rankings of best football helmet in college football.
Yeah,
Ohio State was ranked number 1.
Yeah.
And so I've always, and just so you guys know, that was one of my, Eddie George was the reason I became a Buckeyes fan when I was 7 years old, but the helmets are what actually kept me a fan of the Buckeyes when Eddie George was gone, because that was his last year. And so I was like, why?
Whatever it takes.
Dude, I love the helmets. I thought the helmets were sick.
Nice.
So I've always kind of been intrigued by the helmets. That's why I want to get it. But I would encourage a healthy discussion here in the comments. If anybody wants to join in, Buckeye Nation, just let us know what you think of the helmets. And if you haven't seen the one that I'm talking about, you can go follow Mr. Ohio on Instagram and see what he posted.
Just remember, he's a closet Michigan fan. He hates it whenever I tell people that, he hates it, but it's true.
Hey, do you say the same thing about me, dude? I just had to interview Shea Patterson. I was actually nervous about telling you guys about this.
Yeah, well, you know what? I remember I fired you.
Yeah, you did. So, but apparently, I got my job back or something because I'm here.
I just forgot, to be completely honest with you.
Now you're like, hey, and exit, leave the room. Okay.
Nah, I'm good. It's
Cory's
all
going
good.
solo.
Hey, man. Hey, he's a Michigan alum. He's not there anymore. You're good.
Okay.
He's actually I hear he's a nice guy anyway, so I don't really care. um, that being said, now we're gonna move on to Harry Miller, who's obviously making the rounds for very very important reasons, more important than football. Obviously, self-health and mental health is very very important. I think all of us can speak for ourselves. We know we've all dealt with it in one fashion or another. My family's dealt with it frequently, unfortunately, in the past. So I do applaud the fact that we're getting past this stigma in society that, if you're not okay, then just keep quiet about it. I actually prefer people being open about it. Um, and I want to start off with this. We're going to get to Harry in a second. I want to applaud Ryan Day. First of all, Harry Miller's mother's been just praising him left and right for how he treated the situation. I love the fact Ryan Day took a 5-star guy at an primo position in offensive line, and the guy needed help, serious help, or he was going to end his life. And Ryan Day took the exact 100% right approach, and he's humble about it. On top of that, but to say, I don't care about football, I care about you, and I care about your happiness. And a guy who's coaching at Ohio State, where you are expected to win, and you need everybody on board to win. But in that moment, Harry Miller's life became light years more important than the program, which it is. But you know what I'm saying. Sometimes programs don't always act that way.
Right.
Um, I'm so proud to have Ryan Day as our coach, not just as a great football coach, just as a man and human being.
Can I touch base on that too? Because I want people to understand. Like, obviously, Buckeye Nation, we understand. Ryan Day he's a very good human being. Okay, like to the fact that Cory just brought that up. Think about that for a second. I can share with you guys on my own show, the Game Time Guru. I just interviewed a guy who was playing at UC Davis. He was playing basketball at UC Davis in California, and he went through a very stressful time after an injury. An injury occurred, couldn't play anymore during that season, and he went through a spiral of depression, and he ended up voicing some of these concerns about his anxiety and depression and some of his suicidal thoughts to his coach. And he doesn't blame his coach. He said that multiple times. Even on my show, he goes, I don't blame my coach, but the response from his coach was, we don't specialize in mental health, unfortunately. And that's what he left him at. And then the gentleman ended up trying to take his life in 2017, shortly thereafter.
I'm glad he wasn't successful.
No, exactly. And so it's not saying like it's the coach wasn't meaning it in a bad way, but they literally didn't specialize in mental health.
I understand. You're not an expert in the area. You don't want to give advice when you're not the expert in the area, obviously. And it really needs to be a foundational point of every school now to at least have someone on staff who can deal with that.
100%.
I mean, look, I have really good friends. I feel like I'm a good listener to these friends, but if they come to me with this kind of issue, I'm going to send them to somebody who can deal with that issue, because I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction. I don't want to hurt you further. I know Shane feels the same way, and I think Shane made the point here that it's amazing Ryan Day handled it as well as he did, because he's not an expert on this situation. But Ryan Day has touched on it with his own personal life, with his father, the history of his father, and Ryan Day opening up the mental health center. So obviously Ryan Day is probably pretty educated, as I'd say more educated than most coaches are in this area. Not saying he's an expert, not saying he's a psychiatrist or anything like that. I'm just saying he's probably, since he's dealt with it in his own life, has studied up on it more than the average person. So that's probably what prepared Ryan Day to handle Harry Miller's situation with such class.
And I give him props for that, though, like a lot, because I mean, that I think a lot of coaches can learn from that. Even if the universities, these institutions don't have a professional on staff yet, I think we're moving towards that at this point. But the fact that he was educated enough to understand that, okay, this guy needs help. And I think the other point of this too, I want to kind of touch base and get your thoughts on it too, Cory, and maybe get everybody else's thoughts here too.
Comment. Comment. Tell us what you think.
In sports, we're all taught, especially Ohio State, there's the brand. You're the big bad guys or whatever. The brand is behind it. You've got a lot of pressure on your shoulders, but you're taught through football and all sports, you tough it out. Quit being soft. You do. And you're just kind of, it's ingrained. And a lot of guys do. They tough out everything. And it is extremely difficult when you feel like you're being soft and you don't know how to go about it. Do you feel like Ohio State and these other big institutions might struggle with this more because of the brand behind it? Do you think these athletes have a little bit more of an issue coming out to explain this stuff to
Yeah.
their coaches and stuff because of the
Oh,
brand?
absolutely. 100%. I mean, look, they're around dogs, man. Competitive kids who are the best of the best at their positions coming out of high school in life. And some of these guys, I've seen most of these guys, maybe at that time are not dealing with these issues. And you think, well, I'm different. Something's wrong with me. And there is something wrong, but it doesn't mean you're bad because of something's wrong with you. You need to get help and deal with it. I think Harry Miller handled it the exact right way by medically retiring and saying, "Look, I can't do this. I gotta focus on me." And he's absolutely right, because if he'd kept going down this road, he probably would have successfully, unfortunately, hurt himself in a way that I don't want to talk about really. But um, so yeah, at a blue blood program like Ohio State, gosh, you're around guys that were just ultra competitive at all times. You're around a coaching staff they got winner loser day, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be too much for some people, especially who are going through the things that Harry Miller is going through. And I applaud him for getting help. I'm glad he wasn't successful in ending his life, and I'm glad he's recognizing, look, I need to do something else. I need to focus on me, and I applaud the entire staff for backing him on that. Even though he's a 5-star, what is this? Think about this, and I'm not trying to diss Woody Hayes. He was a good guy in his own right. This is the Woody Hayes era before we even understand what mental health is. It's possible Woody Hayes just stop being soft, get in there and fight, and then the kid hurts himself. And it's not.
Totally.
Like I said, I'm not dogging Woody with that. I'm saying it was a different time.
Yeah, no, and it's just the era in which we're living in. And so to this point, what I'd just like to, I've been speaking on my own show with a lot of people that, are trying to make changes here. I just mentioned the other guy, Delvion Jackson, who I just had on my show. Persevere Innovation. That's his company that he started to kind of help. He's still playing college basketball right now, actually. So he's still continuing on with his journey, just trying to manage things.
Yeah.
But Sarah Meister, she was on my show as well. She's a counselor now in Chicago, but she played volleyball at University of Missouri, and they had a sports psychiatrist on staff over there for her junior and senior year. She told us that the complete difference that it made just from a team perspective, just having those talks openly with people and and having someone there, even if you didn't need to use them, the change in their morale, the change in their anxiety was less, and everything was there. Night and day difference. Lisa Bontasumi, who's in California, had her on my show. She's working with a professional soccer team out of Oakland, and they have a sports psychiatrist. So there is this movement to get there, and I think it would be awesome to see that more and more to be there. I had Trevor Moawad, who was Russell Wilson's mental consultant. Russell Wilson literally had a mental consultant. That was his job, was to help him with his mental conditioning. Trevor, rest in peace, passed away in September, but he was awesome. He worked at Alabama, so Nick Saban already had implemented him for over a year. Kirby Smart had him at Georgia. He would work there the whole season, helping them with their mental conditioning, because that's an important piece of the game. So what I would love to see personally, especially at Ohio State, is if we, you make a focal point on it. You have a mental conditioning coach or a sports psychiatrist, just like you have a strength and conditioning coach. It's just as much part of the game, mental and physical, and have them there. And for those who say there's not enough funding, I beg to differ. There's a lot of funding in these athletic programs. You can pay somebody 150 to 250 G's a year to go ahead and have a profession there. So just something that I think would be awesome, but it's cool to see some of these former athletes starting to make that movement to try to help these guys like Harry to be able to do that, so that they, it's not so taboo, if you will. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It needs to be a central focus of people going forward. There's a lot of pressure we're putting on kids, man. I mean, a lot of pressure. And quite frankly, I do want to say this to any of you out there, who are out writing messages to these guys, you suck, transfer, things like that. That's what Harry Miller went through. You need to get a life. I don't know what's wrong with you, why you do that. Now, Johnny jokes around that I DM people threatening to beat him up and stuff like that. He's kidding when he does say that on Twitter. I never DM a player anything. But I don't understand why some people feel the need to do that. If you're upset with their play, fine. Be private in your home about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we all get upset at players' play, but don't ever message them negative things. Ever do that, because you don't know what they're going. They're still people. You don't know what they're going through. They know they're not playing up to par. They're probably feeling it 1,000 times worse than you'll ever feel it as a fan. So you need to just respect that and say, look, he's got stuff to work on, and I'll let him work it out. I'll be my angry little self about the game in my own home.
I think a lot of people just forget athletes in general, Cory. Like JJ Redick's 37 years old. I didn't realize he's only 37. Like, we forget how young people are just because we're watching them on a worldwide stage. And I think
Great.
especially
He's
with
younger than
college
me. Thanks for making my day.
well, I was just saying because JJ Redick was talking about I would listen to his podcast. He's talking about how his body's completely destroyed now. He couldn't, and I'm like, dude, you're only 37. But I'm like, oh, that's right. Like, he's younger than I thought he would. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, and so we forget how young these college athletes are. We forget CJ Stroud, how young he is. We forget Harry. They might appear to be older because they're in the spotlight and they're in there, but like we forget about that and just remember yourselves.
They're between 19 and 21. I mean, it's
most people are idiots until they're in their mid-20s for like, and sometimes even later.
Sometimes way later than that.
Let's just be real. Just understand that and change your perspective a little bit.
I absolutely agree. So, guys, credit to Harry Miller, credit to Ryan Day, credit to the Ohio State staff for recognizing the issue and probably saving a young man's life that has so much to give going forward that it goes way beyond football. And I think we can all agree on that. We would like to transition here to the third H here and Chris Holtmann. I'm sure he's getting his share of negative DMs from people, but I hate it's a rocky transition. I grant you from it's such a real subject to now we're going into sports again, but we are a sports podcast. The basketball team was bounced in the second round of the tournament yet again, and I have been on Twitter saying I love Chris Holtmann. I think he's a great guy, but I'm kind of over it at this point. And I understand people have been debating me on this, and they like to bring up Coach K. Didn't make a Sweet 16 until his sixth year, I think. I don't really care. I mean, St. Peter's just made a Sweet 16 and we didn't. I mean, it's just like Oral Roberts made it last year and we didn't. I mean, we're a good enough program to make the Sweet 16 once in a while, even Elite Eight, and sometimes challenge for the Final Four. And I'm not saying Holtmann's a bad coach. I don't think he's a bad coach. And I tell you, there's an excuse I get from people, Shane, that I think is the dumbest possible excuse I've ever heard in my life, is that he doesn't have the talent. And I'm like, who's recruiting them? I mean, is he been the head coach for 5 years or not? And everybody wants to bring up the COVID year. Well, maybe we would have done better in the COVID year. I don't know, but he didn't get the chance, and I hate it that we didn't get the chance. But he had his best team, not this past year, but the year before, number 2 seed in the tournament, and he was bounced in the very first round. I mean, I get it. Oral Roberts went on to the Sweet 16. I get all that. Doesn't matter. That's not acceptable at Ohio State. Maybe I'm being too hard on him, Shane.
I struggle because I'm a basketball guy.
I know you play all the time. Yeah, you coach too.
Yeah, that's a sport I've grown up in, and that's my main sport. Like I love basketball, and so when I'm looking at college basketball, this is where I try to give them the benefit of the doubt a little bit. Okay. The landscape of college basketball is different now than it was even 5 years ago.
That's true.
There's not as talented of players in there across the board. There's really not. The talented players. There's now a thing where the G League's opening it up for younger guys to play in the G League overseas. People are going to start doing that more and more, going to Australia for a year.
Then in the NBA. I get it.
They can make more money doing that. Now, with name, image, and likeness and all that stuff becoming a thing in college basketball, I think that's going to help people stay here and try to progress. But the talent across the board has gotten different. So, like, you're not going to see the days where we had Aaron Kraft and Solinger and all those guys. I mean, Diebler. And, I mean, we had some talent for a good 5 to 10 year window there. There was some good athletes.
We had Greg Oden and Mike Conley on the same team.
That was mind blowing, by the way. I think people forget how amazing that team was that year. It's insane. But the thing is,
that's the GOAT.
we just don't have that talent across. I know it's not just at Ohio State; it's across the board. That's why when you see these teams in the NCAA tournaments, there's really no clear cut winner. There wasn't one last year. There's no clear cut winner like that you're seeing anymore. It's not like the Dukes and the North Carolinas are just running through everybody every year. No, they're like literally anybody can win at any time. So I try to give them a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. Now, the whole point is you've brought up this, like, I do believe you've got to make the Sweet 16. You're a Big Ten program, and you do have more talent than the average school does. So, like, I'll say that too. Like, while it's widespread, you do have more talent there, and you have the ability to get the talent. You should be making the Sweet 16. There should be some expectations there, but I would. It's just like when they said, MJ didn't win his first finals for 7 years, and then that's what they were giving LeBron that slack too for a little while. Maybe we give him one more year. I don't know. Like, what do we do?
Well, he's not getting fired, so it's. What do we give him 1 year? Next year he's got this super freshman class coming in, top 5 class in the country, and everybody's banking on that. I'm like, well, we'll see. I've seen this story before. You can't. if the excuse next year is going to be, well, they're all freshmen, Shane. You got to give them more years so he can develop these guys. I mean, it's like, when does it end?
Dude, but look at Calipari, right? Like, if you
who
look
is
at
the most overrated coach in the
he is
history of
very
college
over.
basketball?
I'll give him that, but he always takes freshman classes. Yeah, they've got, but in the landscape of college basketball,
half the time.
You can't develop guys. They're either in there and they're one and dones, or they're there for 2 years. You can't develop guys.
I grant you that, but we're not getting one and dones at Ohio State, except for maybe Malachi Branham might be a one and done. But
that's very true.
He might be. He's been projected number 16th pick in the draft by ESPN recently. So it's kind of wondering if he's like, I could at least go G League and make some money.
Yeah.
But I hope he comes back for one more year. But who knows? Again, though, gosh, dude. I was a huge believer in Holtmann. Huge believer. Yeah. I thought this guy was going to be our Tom Izzo. I was like, he's gonna take us to new heights. He's gonna make us consistently in that Sweet 16, Elite 8 range, and I would be fine with that. I'm not saying we got to challenge for national titles every year. That's not what I'm saying. And in fact, I get in an argument with people on Twitter, and I'm not making the argument that we should have been in the final, championship game by now. What I'm saying is, I'd like a Sweet 16. I'd like the second weekend.
Yeah, the
once
second week,
out of 5 years.
Let us enjoy the next weekend too and have some anticipation. I get that. I will give you that. That's why I rewound.
Is that so much to ask?
The Sweet 16 is not that hard for a decent program.
Shane, I'm not even saying he has to win the Big Ten. I'm just saying second weekend. That's it.
I'm with you, man. I do think that is something that we need to hold to a standard. But I'm going to give him one more year before I get too upset about it, because I do think I feel the culture with him, like they believe him. At least I feel that with him. Like,
you're the culture guy. I'm gonna trust you.
Don't say that, dude. I feel like there's like an energy that they trust him, but I can sense your energy is probably similar to what some people they're kind of getting antsy. That's why I think if you give it one more year, let's see it. But
yeah, but next year if Branham's not there, who's the dude? I mean, it's like Kyle Young's gone. That guy's I trust me, he's injured all the time. I feel awful for him but when he plays, he makes a huge difference on that court. Zed Key, I haven't seen anything that's going to make me think he's the next Kyle Young. And Bruce Thornton's going to be a nice player, I believe, and I think they got some nice pieces coming in next year. But they're young, and you don't. I mean.
Are they a Sweet 16 roster next year?
No, probably not, unless Justice Suing becomes that dude. I mean, if he's coming back and Seth Towns comes back and he's healthy, maybe. But
hey, here's the beautiful thing about the sport of basketball. It's not like football. You can lose games all throughout the beginning of the season and still be. You just got to be playing well at the right time. And so, football, you lose a game, your season's screwed. Basketball, you just got to be playing well at the right time. And if you give these young guys a little bit of experience next year, and then maybe they hit their stride, let's just hope for a Sweet 16 next year. That's all I got to say.
If they do that Sweet 16 next year, I'll regain my faith in Holtmann. I'll say, you know what? He's on the right path. That's good. But again, people talk to me. He's like, well, he's actually the another argument I get, and I know we're getting along here, but another argument I get from people is he's only not lived up to expectations for one season. And I'm like, I'd argue they didn't live up to them this past season. They were expected. I mean, granted, Justice Suing being down just wrecked them because they didn't have that. It took Branham a while to become that second scorer. Let's be real. He's been great the last month or so, but it took a while for him to be that dude. Justice Suing would have been that dude from the beginning next to EJ Liddell. And props to EJ for upping his defensive game for what it's worth. He actually got a lot better defensively. But the guard play is very suspect at times at Ohio State. I think Wheeler had an up and down year. He was okay at times, and he was just downright awful sometimes. We need a point guard that's really good. I can't remember since Aaron Kraft last time we had D'Angelo Russell. I'm sorry. It's last time we had a really good point guard.
I was not a Russell fan, just to be honest. I know people are gonna be like, blasphemy. I was not a Russell fan.
I say Russell because that's who people point to. I would prefer Kraft over him collegiately. Now, Russell's obviously a decent pro player and everything like that, but Russell was a turnover machine for quite a while.
He was Mr. Inconsistent. Put up 18 points this day, 3 points the next. Turnover. Inconsistency. At least Kraft was consistent. That's what you want in a point guard.
But to me, Mike Conley might be the best point guard in Ohio State history. For
the 1 year?
Dude, he was amazing.
Do you think he was good enough to come? Obviously he's made himself a career. I thought he came out early. I was like, man, you're not ready for the NBA yet. Which
he could have survived one more year at Ohio State, but I think with Odin leaving, he was like,
yeah, he bounced because Odin left. But I didn't think he was ready to go.
But I thought he was amazing. He was. Keep in mind, I've been watching Ohio State since the early '90s. I had not seen a point guard that stinking quick. It was unreal how athletic he was, and I don't see that athleticism as much anymore at Ohio State. To be honest with you, not as much. Even Russell was not that athletic.
No. The way he moves his body a little bit different. You're right. So now Holtmann needs to be looking at a point guard that's athletic. According to Cory,
Thornton may be the guy. Maybe Thornton's the guy. He's a true point guard. He just got Georgia Player of the Year. Maybe he's that dude. I mean, I'm going to give it to. But again, he's going to be a freshman coming into physical Big Ten. We're going to see how it holds up. EJ even took a while to get going because he is just so physical. We're kind of worried about next year's roster. Not a lot of size, and I know they got that center coming in. I can't remember his Opera. I can't remember how to say his name. I'm terrible with names. You all know that, but
I'm with you on that.
He's defensively pretty good, but he's going to be offensively raw. So we'll see. I mean, whatever. Anyway, so Shane, you're kind of giving him some leeway. I'm kind of over it, but he can win me back. So that's kind of where we're at with that.
And I'm curious to see what everybody else thinks. I've seen the Twitter post, but let's see what people think here on YouTube. Let us know.
Shane, appreciate you, buddy. Where can they find you?
Just follow me on Twitter. You know, I got my own show called The Game Time Guru, and you can find more information about that on Twitter. But just go to at the Game Time Guru on Twitter. That's my handle. You'll see me posting here from time to time. And yeah, just come follow us here on the channel. That's the biggest part, is just follow us here. We're getting ready for Buckeye football coming up in the spring. So this is where the momentum starts rolling. Just chat with me about Buckeye stuff. I love it.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you all for tuning in again. Once again, Ohio State football. As we talk basketball, Ohio State football right here on the Scarlet N Great Empire here on YouTube. We appreciate you. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all the help we can get. Comment what you think. If we're idiots, fine. We'll take it. But anyway, appreciate you guys. Appreciate all the love and support you've given us. Sorry for the break. We're going to try to be more consistent here going forward. As always, guys, God bless. Goodbye and go Bucks.